Hey, what's going on, you miserable fucking bastards? Before the video starts, I would really appreciate if you help this old man out by liking and subscribing to my channel. I react to a lot of different shit on the internet and I game like a motherfucker. I'm just gaming. Appreciate it, guys.
Imagine
So this one is called Why South Korea is Collapsing, the Coming Economic Crisis. Yo, I mean, I've known that South Korea has been really like deep in the shit for a while. I think a lot of people know, especially when a recent video came out by, I forgot what it was, like Kroger or some shit like that, on why like their economy is collapsing, their birth rates and all that shit. And this is another fucking reason right here. Let's check it out. Get the playback speed.
Country where 10 families control over 60% of the entire economy, where corporate executives convicted of crimes are routinely pardoned because
I think it's called the chaebol. Yeah, I've heard about this too. I have Korean friends. They say that like 4 or 5 families own all of fucking, basically, no, not all of it. I can't say that. Like 60 to 80%, I would say. Might as well be all of them. And I know Samsung, LG, Hyundai, and I forgot the 4th one. They own everything. They build everything, and they basically have people under their fucking thumbs in South Korea. It's crazy. North Korea is a dictatorship, and this one's kind of like an oligarchy. So, yeah.
the nation needs them. It might sound like a dictatorship, something like North Korea, but just below North Korea, all of this is happening. Welcome to South Korea, a modern democracy in name, but a country where business dynasties wield power that rivals the government itself, where a handful of families control everything. These families are known as chaebol. Their influence extends far beyond business into every aspect of Korean life. And in this video, we're going to take a look at how this group of families took over an entire country and became the de facto royal family of South Korea. It's 5:45 AM in Seoul, and Ji-woo's alarm buzzes on her Samsung phone. She groans, rolls over in her tiny studio apartment, and stares at the ceiling for a moment.
Everything is owned by one of these fucking companies. Probably her phone is Samsung. Her bed frame is probably Hyundai or some shit. That fucking that lamppost is probably from, what was it? Hyundai, Samsung. Oh my god, I forgot what I just mentioned. What they were. It was Hyundai, Samsung. Fuck, it'll come to me. It's 4. It's 4 or 5 of them. One of them is I know Samsung and fucking Hyundai is one of the 2. One of the 4.
Another day, another commute, another 12-hour shift at a job that barely covers the bills. Ji-woo is 28, lives alone, and like many in her generation, she's tired not just physically, but existentially. She did everything she was supposed to, studied hard, got a degree, landed a corporate job, but still,
Yep, she landed in the fucking rat race, bro. She's sick of the rat. No, she's sick of the rat race. You're like, she thought that you were promised like prosperity if you did everything, but it's not really. That's not really the case. She's fucking miserable as fuck, like most of us here in the West. The Zoomers and us millennials, the younger millennials, yeah, we're basically stuck in the rat race too, and it sucks ass.
Feels like she's constantly falling behind. Her rent goes to a bank owned by one conglomerate. The apartment she lives in was built by another.
Yeah,
her electricity, her internet.
They own everything, bro. These companies own everything.
Her health insurance, well, that's all connected to the same circle of mega corporations that dominates every inch of Korean life. Wake up to your Samsung alarm, brush your teeth with LG products, drive your Hyundai to work, stop for...
That's the one, LG, yeah. Hyundai, LG, Samsung, and what was the other one? The GK or SK? The GK or SK, one of those two.
Gas at an SK station.
SK.
Buy lunch at a lot store. Visit a Samsung hospital if you're sick.
They make hospitals too?
It isn't about your loyalty to your favorite business.
You know, for the longest fucking time, I thought Samsung was just an electronics company. I had no idea that they fucking did construction. They had like philanthropy and like architecture and all that shit. I had no idea. Like, what can you possibly fucking do if just a few corporations own everything? They basically own you. Let's just call it what it is. They fucking own you in every capacity. Like, most kids from South Korea, when they're fucking like studying and shit like that, and they graduate, like after they go through that grueling test, like near their senior year or like their final year of school, is so that they can get into a good university. Like, there's only like 3 universities, like University of Seoul and some other 2, just so they can work for one of these 4 companies. You know, just so they can be part of the fucking reason why everyone's in the rat race, you know?
This is just life in South Korea, where escaping the reach of a select few super rich families is virtually impossible. As Ji-woo heads to the subway, she passes a young mother rushing her child to kindergarten. That kid has already been trained for Korea's brutal academic rat race, the first step to get a coveted corporate job at one of the top chaebols.
Yep. Go through one of these fucking prestigious colleges, then become like a desk jockey in one of these big corporations. That's how it is, man.
And we made a video on this before, but less than 1% even never make it here, and the payoff for succeeding is arguably not worth its while, with most companies still practicing relentless top-down hierarchies with hours so long that Koreans score some of the highest burnout and exhaustion rates of any society globally. The human cost is palpable. This is a country where people go to hospitals to inject vitamins into the bloodstream to combat burnout, nicknamed...
Oh, I thought they were gonna mention their fucking I thought they were gonna mention their plastic surgeries, because South Korea, not all South Koreans of course, but South Korea is known for like the plastic surgery capital of the entire fucking planet. Like the second one is like Brazil, but first one is South Korea. Like South Korea, they're known for. I heard that like as fucking graduation presents for some girls, and even for girls, and even some guys, their gift is like getting plastic surgery, which is fucking nuts, especially if you're only 18 years old and you haven't even developed or even grown in yet. You're getting that type of surgery. So, yeah.
Named the garlic injection. Almost everything is fake here. It's the plastic surgery capital.
See? Yeah, see? Plastic surgery. Told you.
Of the world. The suicide capital. And
yeah, I think it's either between Korea and Japan when it comes to the suicide capital. The grueling hours that these people put in, especially basically no life balance at all. It's just mostly work. These people get burned out completely, and they just want to just fucking completely just self-delete themselves. And it's sad, and it's depressing, seeing that these people going through this type of shit.
Practically everyone, including Jiwoo, has seen firsthand how these rigid hierarchies infect every interaction at the workplace. Koreans call it gapjo, a colloquial term referring to the arrogant or authoritarian attitude shown by those in positions of power towards subordinates. Every day she witnesses this toxic dynamic playing out, with her friends attacked with condescending language and humiliated with public criticism. She's often forced to stay at the office until midnight doing practically nothing.
I don't get that too. I don't get why people have the fucking audacity to be arrogant and like the audacity of some people, especially if they're in the same boat as you, Like, I've seen people like that, like people where they think that they're better than you, even though they're in the same fucking level as you. Like, they work with the same company as you, they probably get the same amount of money as you, or maybe slightly higher. But these people can be fucking axed like that. So I don't understand why the condescending attitude, or like the ass kissing or boot licking attitude, when basically they can get rid of him just as fast as they can get rid of someone who's not kissing their ass. So, I never understood that. But I heard that these guys take it to an extreme in South Korea. Like, the boot licking over there is extreme. It's like, I'll take that back. It's like two sides of it's like opposite ends of the extreme. They're either completely just boot licking, or they're just completely just rejecting it in all aspects. Like, they want nothing to do with them. That they'll curse them out. If they get a chance, they'll probably smack the shit out of them. That's how I think about it.
Tasks assigned by her boss, work only for the sake of work, and many layers above Jiwoo's daily grind is where you'll find a world few
you live to work instead of work to live.
Outsiders truly understand. An intricate web where family dynasties have transformed South Korea into their private kingdom. The big four chaebols, Samsung, Hyundai, SK Group, and LG operate like states within a state. Samsung.
I never knew that LG was fucking was part of was a Korean-made brand. I knew Samsung was, because Sam means three. And Sung means star, I believe. Star or sun. Star, sun, something like that. And it sounds like Japanese. Sam is san. S-A-N in Japanese. San is three. So I would assume it's probably the same thing. Samsung. So like 3 suns or 3 stars or some shit like that.
Alone accounts for nearly 20% of South Korea's entire GDP. Add in the other major chaebols, and you're looking at around 80% of the Korean stock
Never heard
markets,
of any other one.
all controlled by companies tracing back to a handful of families. Long-term family ownership is quite rare in other countries, where giant corporations are typically run by professional executives, who are then held accountable by independent boards or owned by a wide pool of shareholders. Samsung, controlled by the Lee family since its inception, doesn't just make your phone, they build the warships defending Korean waters, and the K9 Thunder howitzers equipping the military. They construct the apartment towers where families live and the hospitals where children are born. They even provide life insurance that pays for funerals when those lives end.
Oh my god. Dude, that's fucking nuts, bro. So basically, we'll provide you the life insurance where you could potentially die working for us. That's basically what I fucking hear from that shit.
One piece of Korea's corporate puzzle. Hyundai evolved from a modest construction firm into a juggernaut spanning shipbuilding, automobiles, buying out companies like Boston Dynamics.
I only know them through cars. I don't know that they didn't build ships or like a construction company. That's the only thing. That's most us here in the West know, is that they build cars.
The top of robotics in the world, and financial services, all under the watchful eye of the Chung family. LG's expansion from electronics into cosmetics and chemicals continues through generations of co-family leaders.
Never knew that about that either. I thought it was just phones or fucking electronics like TVs and shit.
Meanwhile, the Che dynasty guides SK Group's dominance of the telecommunications and energy sectors. And this is just the very tip of the iceberg. You've got POSCO dominating steel production, Hanwha diversifying from chemicals into aerospace and defense,
I don't know any of these brands.
running energy networks and retail chains, Lot controlling a vast retail empire from department stores to hotels, Hanjin managing transportation through Korean Air and logistics operations, and Nonghyuk for agriculture. Most, if not all,
Dude, that's fucking insane that just a handful of families control every aspect of life for Korean citizens, bro. Holy shit, bro. So mom and pop shop there, it's like very little, I guess. It's not like here where basically you have the opportunity to create a mom and pop shop and build something on your own. Over there, I would assume, tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm wrong, Chad, that basically 6 or 7 times out of 10, when you go into a fucking store, it's probably owned by one of these fucking families. Am I correct on that? Please let me know in the chat if that's the case.
of Jiwoo's friends work at these exact companies. Startup businesses record a 90% failure rate, which is higher than most industrialized countries, and the self-employed class is crippled with debt. Chaebol domination is a big factor. Companies are well known for squeezing smaller companies to make their lives difficult. As one corporate research report explains, the Chaebols controlled a large share of the domestic market and often engaged in unfair business practices, such as predatory pricing, dumping, and collusion. So how did these select few families maintain such extraordinary control generation after generation? Well, the answer is through perhaps the most brilliantly engineered corporate structures in modern capitalism. Despite owning remarkably little of their companies directly, for example the Lee family holds less than 2% of Samsung Electronics, Korea's corporate dynasties wield absolute authority through cross-ownership. You see, imagine a circular web where Company A owns stakes in Company B, which invests in Company C, which then circles back to Company A. By controlling key points
Just a vicious cycle, I guess.
this network, families amplify their influence exponentially beyond their actual investment. In Samsung's case, there are some 74 companies in the entire group. The Chaebols maintain their own distinctive internal cultures by placing absolute authority in the family chairman called Chongsu. Power is inherited through strategic marriages and proactive restructuring to ensure inheritance remains tightly controlled. This is modern Korea, but it wasn't always this way. So to understand the situation, South Korea is
I hope he talks about how it was like after the Korean War, because after the Korean War, they were fucking broke as hell. I would like to see like how they became like the economic powerhouse they are today. I hope he talks about it.
in 2025, we need to rewind 7 decades, as the scene there was completely unrecognizable. The Korean War has just ended, leaving the peninsula in ruins. South Korea is one of the poorest countries on Earth, with a per capita GDP lower than Ghana and Sudan.
Damn, that bad? Holy shit, let me read that again.
Korea is one of the poorest countries on Earth, with a per capita GDP.
Okay, the following Korean War, South Korea remained one of the most poorest countries in the tick producer of 79 per capita per $79, lower than that of some sub-Saharan African countries. And later economic. Oh my God, bro, they were broke. Holy shit, I had no idea. Because when I picture South Korea or Korea in general, specifically South Korea actually, I don't picture poor. You know, I think they're one of 2 only nations in the Far East that are actually first world nations. So I never could have pictured them being broke and poor like some of the other countries in the surrounding areas.
Lower than Ghana and Sudan. Seoul is a wasteland of bombed out buildings and desperate poverty. There are almost no paved roads and most people live without electricity or running water. In this ruined country, a small textile merchant named Lee Byung-chul struggles to keep his tiny company afloat. He calls it Samsung, meaning 3 stars. It's just one of many
3 stars. I knew it. Fucking knew it.
Struggling businesses in a devastated economy, barely a blip on anyone's radar. Across town, a former mechanic named Chung Ju-yong runs a modest construction company called Hyundai. He personally supervises small jobs, working alongside his crew from dawn until dusk. The country has no industrial.
Yo, so these people basically, they had modest beginnings, bro. They basically helped rebuild, like, South Korea from ruins. So their beginning was probably really good, but I guess, you know, money corrupts. They became just a conglomerate that basically rules an entire fucking country. But it wasn't like this in the beginning, I guess. Damn, it's unfortunate.
Base, no natural resources, and no apparent path to prosperity. Western economists write it off as a permanent economic basket case. But then, in 1961, an ambitious army general named Park Chung-hee seizes power in a military coup. Park has only one obsession: transforming Korea into an industrial powerhouse at any cost. He rounds up the country's struggling entrepreneurs, the founders of Samsung, Hyundai, and others, and makes them all an offer they just can't refuse. The government will provide them exclusive licenses, loans, protection from foreign competition, and on top of that, even guaranteed contracts. And in exchange, these businesses will follow Park's economic plans to the letter, never asking any questions.
Wow, I had no idea.
And what followed from this is perhaps the most dramatic economic transformation in modern history. In just 1 generation, South Korea leaps from a third world poverty-stricken hellhole to
like 15 to 20 years, it became just enormous. Like, holy shit.
industrial powerhouse. The elite families who cut this devil's bargain with Park become unfathomably wealthy. Their small companies morph into sprawling empires. They become the Chaebols. Chaebol itself translates roughly as wealthy clan or wealthy clique. And by the 1980s, this group are kingmakers with more power than the government itself. And perhaps the most important bit of their strategy, any politician who threatens them is promptly removed from power, one way or another. And this is continued on until the present day. So when Jiwoo is checking her phone as she waits for the elevator, you'll notice she's reading a news app owned by the Juang Group, a
so propaganda by these companies. Got it.
Family media empire. The influential newspaper, multiple TV channels, and even the Korean edition of Forbes are all controlled by the same dynasty that still makes her smartphone. But as this is normal life, people just don't give them much thought. Like most Koreans, Jiwoo has grown up in this system. It's just how things are. She scrolls through her social feed and sees another Chaebol scandal making headlines. Oh look,
Korean air chief wife allegedly harassing employees.
Look, it's another corporate hair behaving abusively. These boilovers happen so often they're practically a national pastime. But perhaps few are as notorious as what happened back in December 2014, and it all took place over a bag of nuts. It was December 5th. Korean Air Flight 086 sits on the tarmac in New York's JFK Airport, preparing for takeoff to Seoul. Up in first class, Heather Cho, Korean Air's vice president for cabin service and daughter of the airline's chairman, is handed a bag of macadamia nuts by a flight attendant. The problem? Cho expected them on a plate, and what followed became international news. Cho erupted in rage, berating the flight attendant. She then summoned the cabin crew chief, Park Chang-jin, and forced him to kneel before her in apology while she repeatedly struck his knuckles with the edge of a digital tablet.
What? What type of entitled shit is that? Dude, that's fucking crazy.
Satisfied with this display of dominance, Cho then ordered the plane, which had already begun taxiing on the runway, to return to the gate so that Park could be removed from the flight. The instant
Bro, I don't think they can get away with this if it's in the West. I don't think she'd be able to get away with that bullshit if she pulled that bullshit in the fucking West, like on Southwest Airlines or United or some shit like that. Imagine you doing that shit, holding up people's flights, and then you just asking the fucking cabin crew to fucking kneel or prostrate yourselves for I guess not giving her nuts correctly or giving her food correctly, like she's some fucking princess. Bro, she would get her ass kicked in so fucking quickly. It's not even fucking funny. It's not even if she's gonna get her, it's when she's gonna get her ass kicked, bro. It's a guaranteed ass beating. But it's like in these East Asian countries, it's like being modest or like not being outgoing or outspoken or not creating a scene is like a big thing over there. So I don't think anything was gonna happen or nothing really happened like physical, like took place on the plane after that guy was prostrating himself.
Delayed departure by about 20 minutes and inconvenienced 250 passengers, all whilst being completely abusive. When the news broke, Korean Air initially defended Cho, claiming she was just performing her job duties by inspecting service standards.
Crazy.
As public outrage grew, the cover-up began to crumble. According to court testimony, Korean Air executives pressured the victims to downplay the incident and lie to investigators. Another first-class passenger on the flight who witnessed the incident came forward, describing how Cho had thrown the packet of nuts and physically assaulted employees. The whistleblower's account contradicted the airline's sanitized version of events. The scandal then took another turn when it was revealed that Cho had previously attacked another flight attendant in 2013 for serving improperly cooked ramen noodles. This was then also covered up by the airline, which found no wrongdoing. After intense...
Is he a child or something? What the fuck's wrong with these people? Are they like children? I don't think even most children do that dumb shit. Fucking throwing a little tantrum because the fucking food wasn't up to her standards. Like seriously?
Ongoing public backlash, Cho was then sentenced to 1 year in prison for violating aviation safety laws.
That's it?
However, despite the severity of her actions, she only served 5 months before an appeals court suspended her sentence. In many Chaebols, temper and outbursts run in the family. In 2018, just 3 years after her conviction, Cho's younger sister Emily made headlines for a similar incident, throwing a glass of water in an advertising executive's face during a meeting. Their father apologized and both sisters resigned, but they were later reinstated to
Dude, if I had a daughter and my fucking daughter... If I was a dad and my daughter did this dumb shit and embarrassed me like that, as soon as I fucking get her along, I'm whooping her fucking ass. I'm whooping her fucking ass and I'm cutting her off immediately from any type of fucking financial help. Nothing. She ain't getting a fucking dime from me. Get your punk ass up and fucking work. And you work for your own fucking money if you want to throw a fucking tantrum, but you're not gonna embarrass me anymore. Fuck you.
Executive positions in the family business. The nut rage incident, as it became known, perfectly encapsulates
the nut rage. That's a crazy fucking title, man.
Korean concept of capture, the arrogant, authoritarian behavior of the powerful towards those beneath them. And to be honest, this is far from the most shocking Korean corporate scandal. Later in 2018, Yang Jin-ho, the CEO of Korea...
Oh, no, my bad. No.
but they were later reinstated to executive positions in the business. The nut rage incident, as it became known, perfectly encapsulates that Korean concept of kapcho, the arrogant, authoritarian behavior of the powerful towards those beneath them. And to be honest, this is far from the most shocking Korean corporate scandal. Later in 2018, Yang Jin-ho, the CEO of Korea Future Technology and WeDesk, was captured in a video slapping a former employee while forcing the man to kneel and beg for forgiveness. And get this, Yang ordered—
Again, you can't pull this shit in the West, bro. It's crazy that these people are allowing this. And it's crazy that everybody's just watching them do this shit too. Go back a moment. Everyone is just ignoring it, just except maybe him. He's actually looking at it, but everybody's just like not even standing up for this guy. They're probably scared that they might get fired if they do, if they step in or intervene and shit like that. But damn, it's like you can't pull this shit in the West. Most of us, especially in America, most of us here, if we get disrespected like that, we might throw hands. Especially the younger generations nowadays, the Zoomer, they don't give a fuck anymore, bro. Most of these people don't give a fuck. They would literally smack the if they ever had to prostrate themselves, which they never will, or the boss puts their fucking hands on him, he's getting his ass kicked immediately. It's fucking crazy how you treating people like this just because you feel like you have some superiority, like more superior, or just superiority toward them in general because they sign your checks and shit like that. It's fucking crazy. Demeaning people and fucking like stripping them of their humanity is insane.
While forcing the man to kneel and beg for forgiveness. And get this, Yang ordered that the whole thing should be filmed as a souvenir. Even more disturbing, no one in the office moved. His employees just sat at their desks, eyes glued to their screens, pretending nothing was ever happening. Because in that kind of work culture, raising an eyebrow could cost you your job.
At least it was recorded, at least. Him being a fucking dickhead.
Once that video came out, more horror stories followed, in what can only be described as psychopathic behavior. Yang forced workers to kill live chickens at company retreats. He made his staff drink until they collapsed and refused to let them use the bathroom. Managers were then ordered to dye their hair bright. He made his staff drink until they collapsed, then refused to let them use the bathroom.
Fuck, is he like a fucking school teacher now from the middle school? Like, hey, you can't use the bathroom. Teacher, can I use the bathroom? No, you cannot. So he's like that now?
Managers were then ordered to dye their hair bright colors, bright pink, orange, red, just to entertain them. One woman was fired on the spot for not washing lettuce fast enough. He strolled around the office shooting employees
washing lettuce fast enough?
Fun. He even ran a shady online adult content network. And that's just what we saw in public.
What the fuck,
Who
bro?
knows what happened behind closed doors?
This guy's a motherfucking asshole, bro. And I guarantee he probably didn't get much time, you know, when he got fucking sent to prison. I bet you he didn't serve that long. Guarantee it.
The backlash grew too loud to ignore, and so in November 2018, the police finally arrested Yang, and he faced a laundry list of charges: workplace abuse, sexual harassment, and animal cruelty, where he would finally receive a sentence of 7 years, modest in the circumstances. Yang's sadistic butchery of a chicken as an employee outing is an unthinkable—
Yes, but did he serve the full 7 years? That's what I want to know.
Crime whose nature is particularly serious, the court decision read. And unfortunately, sexual violence is a very common theme among Shaburs. In another incident in 2020, DB Group chairman Kim Jong-ki was convicted of repeatedly raping his maid and sexually assaulting his secretary.
His what? Violated. Oh man. Yo, some of these old fucks are fucking perverts, bro. I swear, man. Holy shit.
The court then described his crime as merely as bad and acknowledged the compelling—
What is he, like the Epstein of fucking South Korea or some shit like that?
Evidence against him. But instead of the prison sentence such crimes would normally warrant—
Excuse me, not the Epstein, the Harvey Weinstein of South Korea.
Kim received a 30-month sentence suspended for 4 years. In effect, he walked free from the court the same day. The judge's rationale: Kim's social status as a conglomerate leader, his age of 75, and what the court described as the forgiveness of his victims, or as many allege, the bribes he offered them—
Yeah, I was about to say that. They probably got to pay out.
But Korea's crown jewel, Samsung, has also suffered its fair share of crazy scandals, and they demonstrate how Chaebols are intimately connected to the government. In January 2008, Samsung chairman Lee Kun-hee was indicated on charges of tax evasion and breach of trust. Prosecutors proved he had hidden approximately $4.5 billion in assets in secret accounts under his executives' names and used company money to buy himself luxury cars and rare artwork. The court found him guilty and sentenced him to 3 years in prison with a $109 million fine. A normal Korean citizen would have served the full sentence, but Lee's was immediately suspended, and the following year, President Lee Myung-bak granted him a special pardon. The justification? South Korea desperately needed Lee's leadership to help win the bid for the 2018 Winter Olympics.
So yeah, basically money talks in South Korea. If you got the fucking cash, you can basically get out of anything, bro. Like, jail doesn't mean shit if you have fucking cash in South Korea, apparently. Like, hey, bro, I make everything in your fucking country. You really gonna fucking lock me up? Shit, psych. Nothing happens. Nothing's gonna fucking happen to them.
Lee returned triumphantly to Samsung, where he continued to lead until his death in 2020, and not a single day was ever spent behind bars. His son Lee Jae-young, known as Jae Lee in the West, later proved to be an apt pupil of corporate Korea's meddling behavior. In 2017, he was convicted of bribing the former president with approximately $30 million to secure government approval for a controversial merger that would tighten his control over Samsung. That would happen right after his father, the company's former chairman, had a heart attack. The evidence against him included millions sent from Samsung accounts to shell companies controlled by the president's personal friend and confidant, a businesswoman called Choi Soon-sil. The money financed, among other things, the equestrian career of Choi's daughter, including an $830,000 horse. Lee was then resultantly sentenced to 5 years in prison but served just 18 months before being released. And then in August 2022, the newly elected president granted Lee a special pardon, citing Samsung's importance to the national economy.
Considering the urgent need to overcome the national economic crisis, the government decided to maximize its efforts by pardoning carefully selected business leaders who constantly contribute to the nation's economic growth through active investments in technology and job creation.
This pardon allowed Lee to formally take over as chairman of Samsung, completing the third-generation succession of the family dynasty.
Locked in. Basically not giving it to any outsiders. I mean, only it stays within the family, basically. No outsiders allowed, even if it's one of our own. Only family.
Despite his criminal record. And remarkably, a poll showed that 70% of Koreans approved of the
This could never fucking happen in the West, bro. This could never happen in the fucking States.
pardon. Pure evidence of just how thoroughly the Chaebols have convinced the public what's good for them is good for Korea. Yet ironically, it took a Samsung tablet to blow the lid off the whole corrupt system and thrust Korea's corruption to the limelight. Ji-woo still remembers every detail of that October night in 2016. There she was, slumped on a worn-out couch, exhausted, mindlessly flipping channels, when JTBC's breaking news segment made her bolt upright. The journalist has somehow gotten their hands on a discarded Samsung tablet belonging to Choi Soon-sil, former President Park's enigmatic friend who took millions in bribes. And what was on that tablet? Presidential speeches edited by Choi, classified government documents, state secrets about North Korea, and meeting notes from the presidential residence, the Blue House. The evidence was clear for all to see. This woman, with zero security clearance and zero official position, was essentially running the country from the shadows. And then there was the money trail. The Chaebols, Samsung, Hyundai, SK, had been funneling millions into slush funds used for political bribery disguised as cultural foundations controlled by Choi. The whole game was rigged from top to bottom, and while stories like this would once remain relatively low-key, it made headlines globally. Something inside Ji-woo and thousands of other Koreans snapped. That Saturday, Ji-woo—
There we go. Now people are starting to fucking— I think it's the younger generation, like the Zoomers and the young millennials, they're fucking realizing, yo, this shit is bullshit. We're gonna fucking stand up. I hope they start standing up to this bullshit.
Herself doing something completely out of character, walking towards Seoul's historic center to join what would become the largest protest movement in Korean history. And it was called the Candlelight Revolution. Week after week, the crowd swelled. 45,000 by
That's something.
November 5th, snowballing to 260,000 by November 12th.
That's
there
something.
were grandmothers standing next to college students, office workers next to factory laborers. Families brought their children, even high schoolers showed up with their textbooks to study between chants. And by late November, nearly 2 million people were flooding the streets nationwide.
Oh my goodness, bro. I wish the States had something like this, like a huge amount of people. Like, for example, I remember a few years ago, there was some type of fucking protest here in New York in regards to, I believe it was like, what was something going on with the governor, and only 1,000 people, actually less than 1,000 people showed up. And then after like a day or two, it just completely dispersed. It was fucking worthless. But this right here, let's see if there's going to be some fucking changes.
Wide. These weren't your stereotypes.
Like here and in Europe, like there was a fucking like some type of giant fucking like protest in Serbia, if I can recall correctly. I think it was Serbia, yeah. And shit like that gets shit done. I wish we had a type of moxie to do something like South Korea or like what Serbia is doing.
Typical angry mobs. Despite the freezing Korean winter, protesters were remarkably orderly, bringing candles, sharing hot tea, setting up first aid stations, and
yeah, that's also something that we probably won't do too. Yeah, we're not gonna be fucking orderly and shit like that. We'll probably break some cars and shit like that, unfortunately.
Even cleaning up trash before going home.
Yeah, definitely. We're not. That's definitely can't happen in America. We'll probably be loitering and throw all types of bullshit on the ground and shit like that, and destroy like property and all that shit. Yeah, maybe it's not such a good idea to do that in the States.
December 3rd, an estimated 2.3 million people protested across the country, with 1.6 million in the capital alone. Even on Christmas Eve, over 500,000 still showed up with their candles, and by New Year's Eve, the commented number had reached an astonishing 10 million participants in a country of just 51 million people.
Wow.
It was clear the government couldn't ignore this
of the
tidal wave
population.
of public outrage, so they voted to impeach Park on December 9th, with 234 out of 300 lawmakers in favor, including 62 members of her own party.
In the last hour, South Korea's parliament has voted to impeach the country's President Park Geun-hye. The National Assembly motion passed by 200...
Will impeaching him really do anything, though? I mean, what type of person are you going to fucking get into office after he's gone? That's the question I want to know.
133 votes to 56.
Protests were once unthinkable in Korea, but the Candlelight Revolution changed national sentiment towards Korea chaebols and their links to government corruption. In May 2018, hundreds of Korean Air workers staged an unprecedented demonstration against the Cho family following that infamous Nutrage saga. This boosted anti-corporate sentiments, partly because Korean air staff are considered the elite of the service industry. With jobs so coveted that families would spend fortunes on English lessons and plastic surgery to help their daughters qualify. And yet there they were in downtown Seoul, wearing Guy Fawkes masks to protect their identities while demanding the Cho family step down. Flight attendant Park Chang-jin, the man who had been forced to kneel before Heather Cho during the original Nutrage incidents, was one of the protesters' leaders. Even pilots, the aristocrats of the airline industry, joined the protest. It was an astonishing act of defiance for Korea's hierarchical business culture. For a moment, Ji-woo, her friends and colleagues really believed things might change. The protests, the arrests, and a new president Moon Jae-in promising reform all felt like the start of something different, but in Korea,
I don't trust it. I don't fucking trust it. He's probably inside their fucking pockets as well. He's probably getting a payout from one of these 4 companies, this guy.
old habits die hard. Most of the new president's biggest corporate reform plans got stuck. Then came the trade war between the US and China, and suddenly nobody wants to risk shaking up the economy when the chaebols were the ones holding it together. It's a story Koreans have seen before, a spark of hope followed by business as usual. The president eventually did go to prison, but only served 5 years of a 24-year sentence before being pardoned. The reason? She had developed back and shoulder pain and was released for poor health. But for
dude, in the fucking state, they don't give a fuck, bro. You could have fucking cancer. Your ass is staying in fucking prison. They don't give a fuck, bro. So this is a fucking ridiculous cop out here. Oh no, I have back problems, so I can't really serve jail that long. Come on, give me a fucking break.
a lot of young Koreans, while reform sounds great, nothing ever really sticks.
Yeah.
So instead of fighting the system, many are just finding ways to escape it, building startups, chasing international jobs, or throwing themselves into creative work that...
Yeah, here in the state, there's a lot of Koreans, especially here on the East Coast, New York. A lot of Koreans here where I live. Like in Flushing, there's like a little Koreatown here. So yeah.
doesn't rely on corporate hierarchies. That's why the Candlelight Revolution is still so powerful and so bittersweet. Koreans showed they could bring down a president, but the real power, the chaebols, they're still standing. Even so, something did change. People found their voice, and maybe, just maybe, they won't be so afraid to use it next time.
Yeah, man. Shout out to fucking Moon, bro. This fucking video. Yeah, I really hope that South Koreans, especially the younger generation, I really hope they get their shit together and be like, no, we're not gonna fucking take this bullshit anymore. We have to fucking do something. We can't live like this. And I think the younger generation, in my honest opinion, like the Zoomers and the younger millennials of South Korea, I think they might actually, you know, have a little more moxie or backbone compared to the older generations. Let's see what's about to happen.